Hello and welcome. If you're listening to this story, you're probably eager to speak English with confidence. Maybe you feel nervous when talking to strangers, worried about making mistakes, or simply unsure how to express yourself naturally. Don't worry, you're not alone. Many learners face these challenges, and the good news is that confidence can be learned, step by step. In this story, you will follow the journey of Alex, a young professional who dreams of speaking English fluently and confidently. You will see how Alex overcomes fear, practices daily, learns from mistakes, and gradually transforms his ability to communicate. Each part of this story will show a different stage of learning, providing insights, practical tips, and examples of real-life conversations. By the end of the story, you will understand that speaking English confidently is not about knowing every word perfectly or having flawless grammar. It's about mindset, preparation, practice, and the courage to communicate even when you feel uncertain. You will also discover strategies to overcome shyness, handle difficult situations, and make your speech clear and natural. So, let's begin the journey. Imagine yourself stepping into Alex's shoes, feeling his initial worries, and experiencing his small victories. You'll witness how one person's dedication and daily practice can turn fear into confidence, silence into conversation, and hesitation into fluent speech. Alex's story is about learning, failing, trying again, and gradually growing. It's about understanding that mistakes are part of the process, and that every conversation is an opportunity to improve. Whether you are a beginner or already have some experience, this story will inspire you and give you practical guidance to speak English with confidence in real life. Get ready to start the first steps of your journey, where Alex begins his path towards speaking English confidently, learning to face his fears, take small risks, and discover the joy of connecting with others through language. Alex's journey began on a Monday morning. He had just started a new job in an international company, and English was the main language in the office. He felt excited but also nervous. What if he couldn't understand his colleagues? What if he said something wrong? What if they laughed at his accent? These thoughts raced through his mind as he entered the office, coffee in hand, trying to appear calm. His first interaction was with his manager, Mr. Patel, who greeted him warmly. "Good morning, Alex. Welcome to the team. How was your weekend?" Alex froze for a moment. He wanted to respond naturally, but his mind went blank. Finally, he said, Good, thank you. Weekend, nice?" He felt awkward immediately. Mr. Patel smiled kindly, but Alex could feel his own heart racing. That small moment made him realize how important confidence was. Knowing words wasn't enough if he couldn't speak them smoothly. Determined not to let this discourage him, Alex made a plan. He decided to practice short daily conversations, starting with simple greetings and small talk. He practiced introducing himself, asking questions, and responding naturally. Every evening, he read English aloud, listened to podcasts, and repeated phrases. At first, it felt strange. His pronunciation wasn't perfect, and he stumbled over words, but he kept going. The real challenge came during his first team meeting. The discussion was fast, and people spoke quickly. Alex understood only parts of it, and when it was his turn to speak, he hesitated. He stammered, trying to explain his idea, and felt embarrassed. Afterward, he thought, maybe I'm not ready for this. But instead of giving up, Alex reflected on what happened. He realized that preparation and practice were key. If he could anticipate topics, learn relevant vocabulary, and rehearse sentences, he could participate more confidently next time. He also noted that mistakes were normal. Even native speakers stumble, or choose the wrong words sometimes. Alex started keeping a notebook. He wrote down useful phrases, common expressions, and new words he heard at work. Every morning, he reviewed them and practiced aloud. He also decided to practice speaking with his colleagues during lunch breaks. At first, it was intimidating. Simple conversations like, "How's your day?" or "Did you watch the match?" felt like challenges. But each attempt, no matter how small, helped him feel a little braver. He learned an important lesson early on: confidence doesn't appear magically. It comes from small steps, consistent practice, and a willingness to make mistakes. Alex realized that speaking English was not about being perfect. It was about trying, correcting himself, and learning from every interaction. By the end of the week, Alex noticed a small but important change. He no longer avoided conversations. He still made mistakes, but he could start speaking without panic. That first week was tough, but it laid the foundation, a foundation that would grow stronger with each new challenge and each brave attempt to communicate. By the second week at work, Alex began to notice small changes in himself. He was no longer frozen when someone greeted him in the hallway or asked a simple question. He started to realize that confidence wasn't about speaking perfectly, it was about speaking at all. Each small interaction became a tiny victory, a proof that he could communicate despite mistakes or hesitation. One morning, while waiting for the elevator, a colleague, Sophia, smiled and said, "Hi Alex! Did you see the news about the project update?" Alex took a deep breath and replied, "Yes, I read the email this morning. It seems like an important change." He added, "Do you think it will affect our team?" Sophia smiled, engaged in a brief discussion, and the conversation flowed naturally. Alex felt a rush of relief and pride. That short exchange didn't seem like much to anyone else, but to Alex, it was a milestone. He had asked a question, shared his thoughts, and carried a conversation forward without panic. Encouraged, Alex started setting small daily goals: greet 3 colleagues, ask 1 question during meetings, or share 1 idea in team discussions. These micro-goals made the process manageable. Instead of being overwhelmed by the big challenge of speak English confidently, he focused on achievable steps. Each completed goal gave him a boost and slowly built momentum. He also discovered the power of preparation. Before meetings, he would review the agenda and think of a few phrases or questions he could use. He practiced sentences aloud, imagining himself speaking with clarity. This pre-practice reduced anxiety and gave him a mental script to rely on if he felt stuck. Listening carefully also became one of his strongest tools. He noticed how confident speakers didn't just talk, they listened, nodded, and responded naturally to others. By paying attention to his colleagues' words and cues, Alex could respond appropriately without overthinking. This listening-first approach made him feel more competent and reduced pressure to perform perfectly. Another breakthrough came during a casual lunch with coworkers. They discussed weekend plans, and Alex, usually hesitant in casual conversations, decided to share a small story about a hike he took. He spoke slowly, used simple words, and didn't worry about grammar mistakes. His colleagues listened, laughed, and responded with their own stories. Alex realized that people appreciated genuine effort and interest more than flawless language. Connection mattered more than perfection. Over time, Alex began noticing his own internal changes. His heart rate slowed during conversations, his mind no longer raced with fear of mistakes, and he started enjoying interactions. He felt proud of his small victories, each conversation reinforcing the belief that he could speak English confidently. By the end of the month, Alex had built a simple but powerful routine: preparation, practice, listening, and reflection. Each day added layers to his confidence, like bricks building a sturdy wall. He understood now that confidence wasn't instant. It was cumulative, grown from repeated practice and small successes. He began to look forward to conversations rather than dread them. The office, the elevator, even casual encounters outside work became opportunities to practice, learn, and reinforce his abilities. Alex's journey was still ongoing, but these small victories proved an essential truth: confidence in speaking English grows one conversation at a time. Even with progress, Alex soon faced new challenges. One afternoon, during a team meeting, he was asked to present a short update on his project. His stomach twisted with nerves. Speaking in English in front of multiple colleagues felt like stepping onto a stage, and the fear of making mistakes returned with full force. He rehearsed in his mind: what if I mispronounce words? What if I forget something? What if they don't understand me? Despite his anxiety, Alex decided to face the challenge rather than avoid it. He prepared thoroughly, writing down key points, practicing aloud, and timing himself. He reminded himself that mistakes were natural, even native speakers stumble at times. His goal wasn't perfection, it was clear communication and participation. When it was his turn, he took a deep breath and started speaking. At first, his voice trembled slightly, but he maintained eye contact with the team and focused on his words. Naturally, he made a few small errors, mispronouncing schedule and hesitating on some sentences, but his colleagues were patient and attentive. He realized something important: most mistakes go unnoticed, and even when noticed, they rarely matter. People focus on the message, not the errors. After the presentation, a senior colleague, Mark, approached him. "Great job, Alex. You explained your points clearly." That simple acknowledgement boosted his confidence tremendously. Alex understood that courage mattered more than flawless speech. Facing the fear, rather than avoiding it, was a critical step in building confidence. Alex also learned to reframe mistakes positively. Each error became a lesson rather than a failure. If he mispronounced a word, he would practice it later. If he forgot a phrase, he would note it down and review it. Over time, this approach reduced his fear and helped him see that every mistake was an opportunity for improvement. He noticed that fear often arose from self-judgment. When he imagined his colleagues laughing or judging him, anxiety spiked. But when he focused on the conversation itself, the ideas he wanted to share, the fear diminished. Alex realized that confidence grows when attention shifts from self-consciousness to communication. It's not about being perfect, it's about being present and engaged. Another technique Alex embraced was controlled exposure. He gradually put himself in slightly more challenging situations, answering questions in meetings, making small talk with senior staff, or participating in group discussions. Each step was carefully chosen to stretch his comfort zone without overwhelming him. Slowly, situations that once terrified him began to feel manageable. Reflection became a key part of his growth. After each challenging interaction, Alex would ask himself, "What went well? What can I improve next time?" He celebrated successes, even small ones, and treated mistakes as learning opportunities. This reflective practice built resilience, reducing fear and reinforcing confidence. By facing challenges directly, Alex discovered a crucial truth: confidence is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. Speaking English confidently is a journey of courage, practice, and persistence. Mistakes are not setbacks, they are stepping stones on the path to fluent, assured communication. With this understanding, Alex felt stronger. He knew that obstacles would continue to appear, but he also knew he had the tools, mindset, and courage to overcome them. Each challenge was now an opportunity, and each mistake was a lesson in disguise. The fear that once paralyzed him had become a guide, showing him where he needed to grow and how far he had already come. As Alex continued his journey, he realized that confidence alone wasn't enough, he also needed fluency. Speaking smoothly, finding the right words quickly, and maintaining a natural rhythm were essential to feel truly confident. To achieve this, he committed to daily practice, both inside and outside the workplace. Every morning, Alex spent 20 minutes reading English aloud. He chose articles, short stories, or dialogues that interested him, focusing not only on pronunciation but also on intonation, pacing, and expression. Reading aloud helped him internalize sentence structures, recognize common phrases, and feel more comfortable producing words spontaneously. At first, it felt awkward, stumbling over sentences and mispronouncing words was frequent, but repetition gradually built muscle memory. Alex also started recording himself. Listening to his own voice was eye-opening. He noticed filler words like or creeping in, and he could pinpoint pronunciation errors he hadn't recognized while speaking. With each recording, he adjusted, practiced, and improved. Recording became a private space to experiment and correct mistakes without judgment, allowing him to build both fluency and confidence simultaneously. Real conversations, however, were the most important practice. Alex made a habit of speaking English every day, even in casual situations. At the coffee shop, he asked for his order in complete sentences, adding small pleasantries. "Hi, could I have a cappuccino, please? How's your day going?" These interactions might have been short, but they helped him practice speaking naturally, responding to real people, and adapting to varying accents and speech speeds. He also sought out conversation partners. Online language exchange platforms and local meetups allowed him to speak with people who were also learning or fluent in English. These conversations were low pressure yet highly effective. Alex could try new phrases, ask questions, and receive instant feedback. Importantly, he discovered that mistakes were normal and often unnoticed by others, reinforcing his earlier lesson: don't fear errors, embrace them as learning opportunities. In the office, Alex began participating more actively. He asked questions during meetings, volunteered to summarize project updates, and contributed ideas during brainstorming sessions. His preparation, reviewing key vocabulary and anticipating questions, helped him feel ready. With each contribution, he became more fluent, more natural, and more confident. Another key strategy was thinking in English. Instead of mentally translating from his native language, Alex practiced forming sentences directly in English. This slowed the reliance on translation, which often caused hesitation or awkward phrasing. Initially, thinking in English required effort, but over time, it became more instinctive, allowing him to respond quickly in real conversations. Alex also learned the value of context and phrasing. Certain expressions are common in specific situations: greeting colleagues, offering help, or giving opinions. Memorizing and practicing these ready-made phrases gave him confidence in daily interactions. For example, phrases like, "Could you clarify that?" or "I agree, but I have a different perspective," made him feel equipped for professional discussions. Through consistent daily practice, Alex's fluency improved. He spoke with fewer pauses, chose words more naturally, and handled conversations without overthinking. Each interaction, whether brief or extended, became both practice and a confidence booster. He realized fluency was built not in isolation but through continual engagement with the language, in real contexts and real situations. By combining daily practice, real conversations, and reflection, Alex developed a rhythm in speaking English. Confidence and fluency began reinforcing each other. The more he spoke smoothly, the more confident he felt. The more confident he felt, the more naturally he spoke. Each day, he moved closer to the goal of communicating clearly, effectively, and with self-assuredness. By now, Alex had gained some confidence and fluency, but he noticed that sometimes he struggled to find the right words. He could understand most conversations, but expressing complex ideas or explaining his thoughts in detail was still challenging. To speak English confidently, he realized, he needed to expand his vocabulary and learn to express himself clearly. Alex began by keeping a vocabulary notebook. Whenever he encountered a new word or phrase, he wrote it down with its meaning and an example sentence. He grouped words into categories: work-related terms, everyday expressions, and conversational phrases. This organized approach helped him recall words more easily during conversations. Over time, he noticed that his range of expression widened, allowing him to articulate ideas more precisely and naturally. Another important technique was learning synonyms and alternative phrases. For example, instead of always saying, "I like it," Alex discovered he could say, "I enjoy it, I'm fond of it," or "It appeals to me." By having multiple ways to express the same idea, he felt less restricted and more flexible in conversation. This variety also made his speech sound more natural and engaging to listeners. Alex also practiced explaining his ideas in simple, clear sentences. Sometimes, when he learned a new word, he would write a short paragraph using it, then read it aloud. He focused on clarity first, then gradually added more details or descriptive language. This exercise helped him avoid overcomplicating sentences and taught him how to structure thoughts logically. To strengthen his vocabulary and context, Alex engaged in real conversations actively. When a colleague used a word he didn't know, he would politely ask, "Could you explain what you mean by that?" Or, "I'm not familiar with that word. Can you give an example? Most people were happy to clarify, and these brief interactions taught him practical usage that books or apps alone couldn't provide. Alex also realized that learning phrases and collocations was often more effective than memorizing single words. Knowing that make a decision is more natural than do a decision, or that take responsibility fits better than have responsibility, helped him sound more fluent and idiomatic. He practiced these phrases and sentences and incorporated them into conversations to reinforce memory. Another strategy he used was paraphrasing. When he didn't know a word, he learned to describe the idea instead of freezing. For instance, instead of saying, "I'm frustrated with the schedule," he could say, "The timetable is difficult for me, and it's challenging to manage tasks." Paraphrasing kept the conversation flowing and reduced anxiety about not knowing the exact word. Alex also paid attention to word stress, intonation, and natural rhythm. Using new vocabulary is not just about knowing meanings, pronunciation matters. He practiced saying new words aloud, listening to native speakers, and mimicking their pronunciation. Over time, this made him sound clearer, more confident, and easier to understand. By systematically expanding his vocabulary and practicing clear expression, Alex noticed a significant change in his conversations. He could participate more actively in meetings, explain his ideas without hesitation, and even engage in casual discussions more fluently. His speech became richer, smoother, and more precise. Through consistent practice, Alex understood that vocabulary and clarity are tools for confidence. The more words and expressions he had at his disposal, the more empowered he felt to communicate freely. This growth not only improved his language skills but also strengthened his belief in his ability to speak English with confidence in any situation. As Alex's vocabulary and fluency improved, he realized that speaking English confidently wasn't just about words. It was also about how he spoke and how he interacted with others. He began to notice the importance of tone, listening skills, and adapting to different conversational contexts. These elements, he discovered, could make even simple conversations feel natural and engaging. Tone was the first thing he focused on. Alex realized that speaking too softly made him sound unsure, while speaking too loudly could seem aggressive. Finding the right balance was crucial. He practiced varying his tone to match the context, friendly and casual during small talk, calm and clear during meetings, and enthusiastic when sharing ideas or achievements. By adjusting tone, he could convey confidence without sounding arrogant or uncertain. Listening became equally important. Alex learned that confident speakers aren't just talking, they are actively listening. This means giving full attention to the other person, maintaining eye contact, nodding, and responding appropriately. When Alex focused on listening rather than worrying about what to say next, he noticed conversations flowed more naturally. He could respond thoughtfully, ask relevant questions, and demonstrate genuine interest, which in turn made him appear more confident. Another skill Alex developed was adapting to his conversation partner. Not everyone speaks at the same pace, uses the same vocabulary, or has the same level of comfort in English. By observing body language, tone, and expressions, Alex learned to adjust his speech. For example, with a colleague who spoke slowly and carefully, he slowed his own pace to match. With someone more casual, he used informal phrases and light humor. Adapting to others made interactions smoother and less stressful. Alex also realized that asking questions was a powerful tool. Questions not only show interest but also give him time to think. Instead of struggling to fill silence with words, he could ask, "How do you usually handle this?" Or, "What's your opinion on that?" Questions created dialogue, eased pressure, and made him appear engaged and confident. Additionally, Alex practiced paraphrasing and summarizing during conversations. When someone explained a complex idea, he would repeat it in his own words. "So, you mean that the new system will save time and reduce errors, right?" This showed that he was listening carefully, and it also gave him a chance to clarify meaning, which reduced misunderstandings and boosted his confidence in responding accurately. Nonverbal communication became another key focus. Alex learned that gestures, posture, and facial expressions could reinforce his words. Sitting upright, smiling naturally, and using subtle hand gestures made his speech more expressive and engaging. People responded positively, which increased his comfort and self-assurance. He also observed that conversations have natural rhythms, pauses, laughter, and small reactions are normal. Learning to tolerate silence, rather than rushing to fill it, made Alex more relaxed. He realized that a confident speaker doesn't feel pressured to talk nonstop. They can pause, think, and continue with composure. By combining tone, listening, adaptation, and nonverbal cues, Alex's conversations became richer and more effective. He noticed colleagues responding more warmly, discussions feeling smoother, and his own anxiety decreasing. Confidence, he understood, is a combination of language skills, awareness, and interaction strategies. Through continuous observation and practice, Alex reached an important insight. Speaking English confidently is not just about saying the right words. It's about connecting with others, responding naturally, and adjusting to each unique situation. Mastery comes from understanding people as much as understanding the language. Even with growing fluency and strong listening skills, Alex understood that confidence in English also required emotional awareness. Speaking a second language inevitably involves mistakes, misunderstandings, and occasional awkward moments. How he handled these situations would determine whether his confidence continued to grow or faltered. Alex began reframing mistakes as opportunities rather than failures. When he mispronounced a word or forgot a phrase, he would smile and correct himself naturally. "Sorry, I meant," or "let me say that another way." By responding lightly, he removed tension and kept the conversation flowing. Over time, he realized that most people barely noticed errors, and even when they did, they appreciated his effort to communicate. Humor became another valuable tool. Alex discovered that self-deprecating jokes, gentle and friendly, not forced, could turn potentially embarrassing moments into opportunities for connection. For example, when he stumbled over a long sentence, he could laugh softly and say, "English keeps me on my toes." Colleagues often smiled or laughed with him, reinforcing the social bond and easing tension. Humor, when used naturally, boosted his confidence and helped others feel at ease. Emotional intelligence played a critical role as well. Alex learned to read others' reactions, noticing when someone seemed confused, bored, or enthusiastic, and to adjust his approach accordingly. If a colleague looked puzzled, he would pause and clarify. If someone seemed excited, he would mirror that energy. Understanding emotions, both his own and others, helped him navigate conversations more smoothly and feel more competent in expressing himself. Alex also realized that patience was key. Confidence didn't come from speaking perfectly every time, but from persisting and remaining composed despite setbacks. When a conversation became challenging or a topic unfamiliar, he reminded himself, it's okay to pause, ask for clarification, or even admit, "I'm not sure about that, but I'd like to learn." These honest, composed responses strengthened trust and showed maturity, making him feel more confident in his interactions. Another lesson Alex learned was embracing curiosity. Asking questions, exploring new ideas, and expressing genuine interest in others made conversations engaging and reduced self-consciousness. Instead of worrying about every word, he focused on connecting, understanding, and learning. This shift in focus, from self-criticism to curiosity, allowed him to speak more freely and confidently. Alex also experimented with storytelling. Sharing personal experiences, anecdotes, or opinions helped him practice vocabulary, structure sentences, and maintain the listener's interest. He practiced narrating short stories aloud, paying attention to clarity, pace, and tone. Storytelling not only made his speech more engaging but also reinforced his sense of confidence, because he could convey ideas effectively in an organized way. By combining acceptance of mistakes, humor, emotional awareness, patience, curiosity, and storytelling, Alex's confidence became deeper and more resilient. He learned that confidence is not just a surface skill, it is rooted in self-awareness, social understanding, and the courage to communicate authentically. Through these practices, Even challenging interactions became opportunities to strengthen his abilities. Alex discovered that speaking English confidently isn't about perfection, it's about adaptability, resilience, and connecting genuinely with others. Each conversation, successful or flawed, was another step toward mastery. By now, Alex had developed a solid foundation of vocabulary, fluency, and social awareness, but he understood that real-world practice was the key to truly speaking English with confidence. Theory and isolated exercises had helped, but only consistent, everyday use could cement his skills and make speaking second nature. Alex began seeking opportunities to speak English outside of work. He joined a local language exchange group, attended meetups, and even started volunteering at a community center where he could interact with English speakers. Each new situation challenged him differently: accents, speech speeds, and unfamiliar topics, but he treated each challenge as a practice session rather than a test. He also implemented a reflection routine. After each conversation, he would ask himself, what went well? What can I improve next time? Did I express my ideas clearly? How did I handle mistakes? This simple act of reflection allowed him to track his progress and identify areas for improvement without judgment. Over time, he noticed patterns. Situations that used to intimidate him now felt manageable, and his responses were faster and more natural. Consistency became his most powerful tool. Even short daily conversations, a 5-minute chat with a barista, a greeting to a colleague, or a casual discussion with a neighbor, added up. Alex realized that confidence grows incrementally. It isn't built in a single moment but through countless small interactions that gradually expand comfort zones and reduce anxiety. Another strategy Alex used was deliberate exposure to slightly more challenging situations. He didn't avoid difficult conversations or unfamiliar topics. Instead, he gradually sought them out. Asking questions during presentations, participating in debates at the language group, or leading small discussions at work allowed him to stretch his abilities. Each successful attempt reinforced his self-assurance, while mistakes provided valuable lessons. Alex also noticed that he could learn from observing others. He paid attention to how confident speakers structured their sentences, used pauses, emphasized points, and adjusted their tone. By mimicking these behaviors in his own style, he learned to speak more naturally and fluently. He discovered that the subtleties of body language, eye contact, and intonation were just as important as vocabulary in projecting confidence. He practiced thinking in English rather than translating from his native language. This shift allowed him to respond more quickly and naturally in conversations. It reduced hesitation and awkward pauses, and gradually, forming sentences in English became a more instinctive process rather than a deliberate mental effort. Alex also reinforced his skills through listening. Podcasts, audiobooks, and everyday conversations exposed him to diverse vocabulary, accents, and conversational styles. Listening actively helped him predict sentence structures, understand idiomatic expressions, and adapt more easily in real-time conversations. Over months of consistent practice, Alex noticed a profound change. What once felt intimidating now felt approachable. Conversations flowed more smoothly, his ideas were expressed clearly, and his fear of mistakes diminished significantly. Real-world practice, combined with reflection and perseverance, had transformed his confidence from tentative to steady. He understood that growth is ongoing. Confidence is not a fixed state, but a living skill that develops through continual practice, courage, and mindful reflection. Each conversation, every new word learned, and every interaction in English contributed to a stronger, more capable speaker. Alex had not only improved his language skills but had built a resilient confidence that allowed him to engage with others authentically and effectively. As Alex's journey reached its next stage, he reflected on how far he had come. What had started as nervous greetings and hesitant words had transformed into natural conversations, engaging discussions, and confident presentations. Speaking English with confidence was no longer a distant goal. It had become part of his daily life, his professional interactions, and his personal growth. Alex realized that confidence is not about perfection. It's about showing up, speaking, listening, and learning continuously. He understood that mistakes, stumbles, and moments of uncertainty were inevitable, but they were also essential. Each error was a lesson, each pause a moment of reflection, and each attempt an opportunity to improve. By reframing challenges as learning experiences, he embraced growth rather than fearing failure. He also recognized that speaking confidently goes beyond words. Tone, body language, and emotional intelligence play a huge role in how messages are received. Maintaining eye contact, modulating speech, and adapting to the conversational flow helped him connect with others, making every interaction more meaningful and rewarding. Confidence, Alex realized, is as much about engagement as it is about language proficiency. Consistency and practice remained at the heart of his journey. Daily conversations, reading aloud, listening to podcasts, and participating in group discussions reinforced his skills and reduced anxiety. Reflection after each interaction allowed him to identify successes, note areas for improvement, and maintain momentum. Through repeated practice, habits formed, and English became a natural part of his thought process and expression. Humor, curiosity, and adaptability had also strengthened his confidence. He learned to laugh at minor mistakes, stay genuinely curious about others, and adjust his speech to suit different situations. These qualities made him not only a better speaker but a more engaging and approachable communicator. Confidence was not just an internal feeling, it manifested outwardly, creating positive impressions and facilitating meaningful connections. Alex's journey taught him that speaking English confidently is a lifelong process. There is always room to grow, new expressions to learn, and richer ways to connect with people. But the most important lesson was this: confidence is built step by step, one conversation at a time, through courage, reflection, and persistence. It's a skill that grows with practice, patience, and the willingness to engage fully, even in the face of uncertainty. By embracing this mindset, Alex found freedom in communication. He no longer hesitated in conversations, no longer feared mistakes, and no longer doubted his abilities. Instead, he approached every interaction with readiness, curiosity, and composure. Speaking English confidently had become not just a skill, but a part of his identity, a tool that opened doors to opportunities, friendships, and personal growth. As he walked through the office, greeted colleagues, and joined discussions, Alex felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Each word spoken, each idea shared, and each conversation navigated was a testament to his dedication and perseverance. The journey had transformed him, and he knew that every step forward, no matter how small, contributed to a lifetime of confident communication. The story of Alex reminds us all that speaking English confidently is possible. It requires courage, consistency, curiosity, and the willingness to embrace imperfection. Every conversation is an opportunity to grow, connect, and express yourself fully. Confidence, once built, becomes a lifelong companion, empowering, liberating, and transformative. And that is the ultimate reward, not just speaking English fluently, but speaking it with assurance, authenticity, and pride.